All right, welcome back to another episode of the Carbon Cardboard Podcast, covering Formula One and the Formula One card hobby. I'm your host, Bryan, Q3 Cards, joined as always with my good friend Scott from the P1 Castle.
That's right.
I thought we did pretty good. I thought we did pretty good last episode out, Scott. So
I think so.
Like I said, I like the name better. How's it going? It's been about 2 weeks since we recorded. We've both been super busy. I'd love to. I know both you and I would love to do this more frequently, but life gets in the way, and you've got a ton of stuff going on with the P1 Castle now.
Yeah. I mean, ever since the forced rebrand, so to speak, it's been straight ahead. Like, we've literally done nothing but like constantly working on like all the rebranding efforts, like getting all the old content we potentially have. Like, that's the other thing about losing the actual account is like every live that I ever did that was just sitting in my reels, literally you could go back years, every live, like all the rips I've done at races and like I remember like I did my first ever 2020 Dynasty rip was on the eve of the last race of the 2021 season. Like, all that's gone, and most of that footage, the only place I had it was Instagram. Some of the more recent stuff I have, backed up, like the Max Super and everything. Like, I have, a video of that. But yeah, so it's just been trying to scrape everything together. We finally hit 1,000 followers. I was almost at 5,000 on the other account, but
we'll figure out a way to 5x you from here. So
there you go. We'll get there.
Maybe 10x, so 10x, busy, like 10x the hobby.
There you go, exactly. But all good stuff, and people have been very supportive, which has been awesome. So appreciate everybody.
Awesome. All right, so we got another fun episode to talk about. Another thrilling race. We'll talk about the Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort. Another classic. What a season we've had so far in 2024. It's just been a roller coaster.
Thrilling? Was it thrilling, Bryan?
Well, I mean, it's thrilling if you're a McLaren fan, but simply lovely. Lando needs a new tagline. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the driver market changes, and again, another feather in the carbon cardboard cap for another correct driver prediction. We are doing decent. Logan Sargeant's not doing decent right now, but talk about that as well.
F1 came for me and came for him after.
Unfortunately. So we will talk about that. We're going to talk about Fanatics Fest. Again, I really wish I would have had the chance to go with you and Nico, and I think that would have been a great time. So do a little comparison of Fanatics Fest and the National, which you attended both. And I have a feeling I know what you're going to say about that, but very different venues and whatnot. And I think, again, just really good for the hobby. So we'll talk about that. And then finally, just some castle pulls and really dig into some of the data and what you've got available with premium consignment stuff. I personally think that, although I'm biased and I am your friend, but I really think it's good for the Formula One hobby as itself, because we really haven't had anybody to do like some of like that white glove treatment for some really big and iconic cards. I know there's a lot of people doing great things out there with consignment, like Ferg at Rated Rips is doing awesome things, crushing it in terms of volume and stuff. But the P1 Castle is crushing it with dollar volume now. So we're definitely going to get into that
different type of stuff.
Oh, but you know what? We need both in this hobby. So
that's true.
Let's talk, Scott, the Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort. Like you said, maybe not the most exciting race in general, but again, like when we started this podcast in the beginning of this year, never in a million years did I think that we would be talking McLaren is the class of the field at this point.
Yeah. I mean, you could have potentially predicted them like making their way towards the front, but you certainly would not have expected, a 23 second win, right? That was reserved for Max and Red Bull. And that was what everyone we were hoping to catch up and just make it interesting. And we have gone from interesting to just rocketing past that. And McLaren has become the new Red Bull. Like we were looking for someone to knock Max and Red Bull off. And McLaren came through with a sledgehammer, it seems like. And the question is going to be, is it too late? Is it too late, Brian? And I know we talked about Constructors' Championship, and I think they're probably the favorites now. But for the drivers, I mean, I don't know. Does Lando regret ever giving those 7 points to Oscar Piastri? Does that come back to bite him?
It's possible. I don't know that it's going to be as close as Lando and McLaren fans would like it to be. I don't think it's the season. So even with McLaren as, the presumptive class of the field at this point, now 3 race wins across the team. I mean, Max still has 7 or 8. I mean,
it's true.
As much as I love Lando, he's one of my favorite drivers, and McLaren one of my favorite teams. Is he going to turn into Lewis Hamilton or Michael Schumacher or even Max Verstappen of last year for the remainder of the season and rattle off all these wins? Maybe, but like the guy that finished third, Charles Leclerc, had a masterclass of a drive. I still think personally, really Oscar Piastri may have had some floor damage running wide on one of the curbs. I could have sworn Alex Jakes had said something about it on early in the race, and he just didn't have the same pace that Lando did. Obviously, Lando was out in front in clean air, but Leclerc just showed again, even in the not the best machinery, that he is one of the best in the grid. And I personally think, and I know you probably would agree with this because I'm pretty certain I've heard you talk about one of your lives recently, I think Leclerc should have been driver of the day, not Lando.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think, we're going to see a lot of Lando driver of the day, because we've seen Lando win driver of the day when he comes from, middle to the front or does something spectacular. But we've also seen Lando get driver of the day for no, apparent reason. And I think in some cases, winning a race by 20 seconds should get driver of the day, because you actually drove flawlessly. But, I feel like driver of the day becomes a popularity thing, because if Max wins by 20 seconds, he's getting 2% of the vote, but Lando, he's the new darling. But it's good, right? I mean, I feel like a lot of people gravitated towards Max in 2021 while the championship battle was ongoing. The people that had just watched Lewis win, you fell on two sides of that. Either you loved Lewis or you just wanted to see someone else win, and that was Max. And now, either you love Max or you just want to see someone else win, which is why the word thrilling comes to your mind when you think of this race, because it wasn't Max, right? And that's what we need in this season, because there's either two ways this goes to make this a legendary season, because Max has a huge advantage, 70 points in the drivers. So either all of the rest of the races are close and engaging, and we're not sure who's going to win, and that's just entertaining in and of itself, or Lando just wipes the floor with everybody, wins every race by 20 seconds, and then even if that individual race isn't exciting, the fact that he's gaining 8 points or 10 points or 12 points a race on Max then becomes extremely exciting, because we might have a championship battle. And I actually put that to you. What would you rather have? Would you rather have a season where we have 8 races left now, where we see Lando dominate the next 7 in a row, literally just rattles off all those wins, and they're not great individual races, but we go into the last race basically tied on points between Lando and Max? Would you rather see that, or would you rather see an amazing individual race the rest of the season, but Max wins by 80 points?
Wow, that's a rock in a hard place as a Formula One fan. I would say and I guess I've mentioned this a few different times on the podcast. So I came in 2021 as a fan. I've talked about it before. Imola 2021 was the first race I ever watched. I didn't see Bahrain that year. I never saw the Lewis Hamilton dominant run. I saw Lewis Hamilton in contention that season, and went to that final race. Max Verstappen was the upstart, trying to dethrone Lewis. So I've always had a soft spot for Max, but also Lando was one of the first drivers that I gravitated towards as well, just early on. So it's tough because I like both. I think it would be more thrilling for Lando to come back and find a way to unseat him. However, I will throw this back to you, my friend, as a self-proclaimed Max Verstappen fan. How do you feel if he still ultimately wins his fourth championship, but doesn't win another race the rest of the year, but still finished with 7, and historically that's still a really strong number in a very tight race. Obviously it's very unheard of to win, as many races as he has recently, but does it take a little bit away from that championship if most of his points were front loaded at the beginning of the season?
So for me personally, and again, this is as a Max fan, it wouldn't, because then what I kind of look at that season is, listen, your car was really good early on. You got the points you need to get out of it. Even though Scott went to Australian Grand Prix through Topps Chrome in your brake ducts and you got a DNF, you still came away from the beginning, the first half of the season, with a very healthy lead. And you needed it because McLaren was about to rocket past you guys. And what's been worrying for Red Bull is the last 2 upgrades that they've put on haven't really done it. They're not getting a correlation from the wind tunnel to the track, or they're not getting, what's funny, because we talk about it, the penalties, they got for the cost cap, and all this stuff. And everyone's oh, it's nothing. It's a meaningless penalty, because it's something you never see. Literally, you'll never see it. You could say their wind tunnel time is decreased by 99%, which would render them utterly inferior for the rest of the year because they'd never be able to make upgrades. But people don't necessarily correlate that. They're just oh, wind tunnel time, whatever. They're fast on the track, So I think that's finally coming back to bite them. Not necessarily from the cost cap one, but every time you're in first, you're getting less wind tunnel time throughout the season than the other teams. And I think a little bit of that, they're struggling with correlation. They're struggling to find the sweet spot for the car. And they've gone back and forth now between multiple different floors, and they put that massive rear wing on the car. I don't know. I think Red Bull's still very fast in a straight line, and that may save them at races upcoming in Monza and some of the other ones. But I think it's then a story of Max holding on, getting the necessary points with a car that wasn't class of the field in the second half, and then gets it over the line and does it that way. And who knows, maybe we go into the last race tied. Max would win on countback with more wins. So Max just, cleans Lando out turn 1 and wins a championship. Good old Senna Prost style.
Or Schumacher, Hill, and wow. I don't know. I still think this is a really good season. With all the different multiple race winners. And now we have 3 different drivers with multiple wins. Now Lando joining Hamilton and Max. So yeah, but overall, I think Sergio lost a place, but I still think he put his car, where he needed to. And I think he's probably performing as well as the Red Bull is. I don't know. I know we're spending a lot more time on this race than I thought we would, but it's still relevant to talk about. I've also heard 2 different things. I'll get your just quick thoughts on this before we talk about the driver market news, but I've heard a little bit about the rear brake. Is it differential with Red Bull, where the new regulations have come in and basically you need to have that same balance on potentially both tires, and there's the thought that might actually be changing the car from kind of, oversteer to understeer or vice versa. And I guess the other thing before I throw it over to you too was, McLaren might also be benefiting from, I think it was a Rob Marshall, somebody that came over from Red Bull to McLaren, and McLaren has a top high end class wind tunnel at this point. So they're, potentially able to really extract as much of that performance from the car as they have.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think, and it's always a little bit of, hey, whoever is way up at the top, like FIA is looking for ways to whether it's a rule clarification or something new implemented to maybe disadvantage the team that's winning right now. And that's what Red Bull's kind of falling prey to a little bit. So yeah, they're having some struggles with some of the specific regulations on certain things that they're clarifying, and then they're also having struggles putting actual upgrades on the car. And this upgrade that we saw in Zandvoort was huge for McLaren, and especially for high downforce. This is a similar package to what they're going to run in Singapore. Now we'll have to see how they go next weekend in Monza, because completely different track, right? Skinniest rear wing you'll ever see. Keep the car on the road and then just go fast in the straight line. So, but the last thing I'm going to say here on the Max versus Lando championship battle is I mentioned to you at the beginning, what if the 7 points is going to come back to bite him, right? But I actually heard Scott Mitchell-Mall on the Race podcast, love them, bring up an important point, is that maybe giving that 7 points and that win to Oscar then will benefit him later in the year. If he hadn't given that race win, it would have been really awkward between not only him and Oscar, but also him and McLaren, because they were getting as close as they could to begging the guy on the radio. So if he doesn't do it, then that kind of messes with their vibes for the rest of the year, and he'll probably get more than 7 points potentially through team orders or things where Oscar will gladly just be hey, yeah, you can take second place, I'll take third in some type of race, right? Because there will be situations where ultimately if Lando's going to win, he needs Oscar to not be finishing fourth. He needs Oscar to be finishing second, third. He needs Oscar ahead of Max while Lando is winning, because he needs to take more points off Max. It can't just be 7 or 8 points every race, because then eventually it won't be. So, yeah, we'll see. But yeah, Dutch Grand Prix was solid. First time Max didn't win, and we head to Italy next week.
All right, let's talk driver news. Shout out to friend of the show, F1 Ben, and also friend of the show, Jack. How you doing? I think Jack is doing decent right now, because he is the second driver for Alpine in 2025, to the surprise of neither of us.
That's right. 2 for 2 here on the Carbon Cardboard podcast on this prediction. The Jack doing. And it's interesting because I feel at the time when we were creating our, driver lineups, I feel we both put Jack doing in as it maybe could happen, but maybe this is more wishful thinking, and oh, we would love to see it, but will it happen? I don't know, but sure enough, the names just kept getting scratched off. I feel Alpine had a whole board, not necessarily of people ahead of him, but just people on a board of who they're going to put in the second seat, and just, people start signing other places. And I'm really happy they went with Doohan, because they still could have gone some other directions, right? Mick Schumacher's name got thrown in there. I feel it gets thrown in anytime there's an open seat, but so his name was thrown in there. And then there's still some other drivers that are, on the grid that don't have spots yet, like Bottas. And I know we're going to talk about this a little later, but, they had options, right? They could have gone with, F1 tried and true. And instead they went with their academy guy, which you love to see, So yeah, Jack, how you doing? Is going to be racing for Alpine 2025, which means we'll get the product, 2026, but he might have a reserve driver auto in the 2024 product that everyone will be going crazy for.
Yeah. I for all those different reasons, I think this was the right move too. And if you were paying attention, and both of us, talking to F1 Ben, and he is one of the biggest Jack Doohan fans on the planet. I know there's a lot of other Aussie collectors that have been following him very closely, like J-Rad and others. Yeah, another Aussie on the grid. We don't know we don't know the fate of Daniel Ricciardo at this point, but this at least puts two Aussies on the grid again in 2025. I think this was just the right move for Alpine. Again, to show their driver academy works. They did lock down this Aussie when they missed out on another Aussie that we were just talking about a little bit ago.
True. Yeah, I wonder if I feel like it's the best time to do it, right? Like, at least it's probably a 1-year deal, and you bring him in for the end of the regulations, and he's familiar with the car, at least on the simulator, very much so, and a little bit FP1. He'll have a couple more FP1 sessions throughout this year, so he won't be coming in completely fresh. And then you see how he does, and maybe they renew him for 2026. I feel like it made sense. It was the perfect time to bring him in.
Well, James Voles and Williams decided also it was time to make a change, and
my boy,
sadly, your boy, America's
hero
last
of the hobby,
of the hobby, Logan Sargeant, dropped for the remainder of the season. To be honest, Scott, everybody could see this. You really wouldn't be shocked. I honestly think, before I throw it over to you here, I think ultimately it was James. His hand was forced. This latest crash at Zandvoort, I think, set the team back $1.7 million, and all the upgrades that they just put in the car literally up in smoke. They literally could not afford to keep Sargeant in the car anymore. I don't think he's wrecking the car more than Sergio Perez is wrecking the Red Bull at this point. Even though he's outqualified him quite a bit this season, but I don't know that that's something to hang your hat on.
No, yeah, I mean, listen, Logan showed little spots, of a good qualifying session, some solid practice sessions, a few decent races as well. Like he showed
Vegas last year,
absolutely. Silverstone this year. Like he showed the potential to be able to do it. I think he just struggled to do it consistently, and then, just unfortunate, but just crashed far too often, right? Like at the end of the day, it's just untenable for a team like that. And it's just, it's really tough in Formula One. You come back from the summer break, you've got a brand new upgrade, you're excited to see the correlation from the wind tunnel to the track, and see your boy Logan go out there and spread his wings like the bald eagle should. But didn't work out. And ultimately, I think, again, with the collab that we did earlier, like, I got too big, came for me, and I think it made Logan too big. F1 was threatened, and they forced James Vowles' hands. And no, obviously joking, but it's unfortunate. I feel for him. I honestly feel for him. I wish he could have, kept it together and seen out the season. But at some point, you gotta move on. And I think, like you said, his hand was forced, like this crash. Like, I think if he had just kept his head down and done the job and just been a few tenths off Albon or whatever rest of the season, it's fine. But you crash first race back, it's just not going to happen. And this is a great time to bring in his replacement, who I'll kick to you on the next one.
Franco Colapinto. I had to look this up, Scott. I think currently 6 in the F2 standings.
Yeah. He is 6
in Argentina.
Just shy of 100.
From Argentina. The first time, I guess, an Argentinian is on the grid in 23 years. I thought I saw.
It's been a long time. Yeah.
Kind of a protege, so to speak, of Fernando Alonso. He's kind of taken him under his wing the last couple of years. Honestly, I don't know much about him. We do not have any cards of him, I believe, at this point because he's not in the Topps 2023 product.
So would he be in? I bet you he's got turbo attacks.
Well, he might be in the new 2024 TurboTax, but I also think Topps now is going to give him a rookie card like this week, probably.
Yeah, I think so. And like, again, we mainly cover kind of like Topps Chrome and above. We don't really cover TurboTax too much. So, I mean, it's safe to say like he doesn't have a Topps Chrome card. He doesn't have, but I think he might have. I don't actually know for sure. I haven't verified that whether he's got TurboTax because I know Antonelli does, but not sure. But yeah, Franco Colapinto, like you said, he did really well in Spanish Formula 4, and then basically from that point on, Alonso's kind of been personally invested in his career, so he'll be happy to see him on there. And it's another one, like we talked with Doohan, this, it just makes sense for them because realistically, their options were Liam Lawson on loan. But I'm sure that Red Bull and RB were like, yeah, we'll loan Lawson out to you. But if at any time we need to pull him back, even if it's later this year, like we're doing it. Like say they decide to replace Sergio and move Danny Rick up and then put Lawson in the RB. Like I'm sure they had in the contract that like we can take him back at any time. And Williams was probably like, all right, well, we don't want to deal with that. Like because that would just be such a headache for them, right? So they probably pass on Lawson due to stipulations, and then who are you left with? Schumacher's name came up again. I feel like he's the ghost of F1 past. His name just constantly gets brought up no matter what. Drugovich, reserve driver at Aston Martin. He could have been potentially like ready to hop in. Or, Colapinto is their highest ranked, Williams Academy guy. So why not bring him in? It's 8 more seasons throughout the rest of the year, and obviously he won't be there next year because they have Albon and Sainz. But remember that we heard a lot about Sainz contract clauses and stuff with Williams being like, yeah, he can leave to go to Ferrari or Red Bull or Mercedes, or if they're ranked high up. So maybe they think they need a backup plan because say Sainz stays, or he's obviously there in 2025. Colapinto is their reserve driver. Maybe next year that would make sense as a progression for him. And then Sainz leaves in 2026. Then maybe they can slot him in and they'll know better whether they can do that based on how he does the rest of the season. So I think it's smart for them to get him in the car. Hopefully he doesn't crash and keeps it on the straight and narrow for a little while, and then see if he has some pace.
To be honest, I didn't know anything about this kid until, obviously the news broke this week. I had to look it up, but I think for all the reasons you just laid out, I think it makes the most sense for Williams. I think Formula One fans obviously wanted to regurgitate those list of names like you just did, but I think for the team, I think it makes the most sense. And I think Vos has basically told them, put your head down, don't crash, finish the season. Don't cause us to breach the cost cap with additional crashes. They do not need him doing exactly what Sargeant was doing. And I think, to your point, I think Sargeant was just trying to potentially maybe do too much. And I think that's where he was on the edge a lot, and it just kind of didn't work out. I know we didn't mention this too, but I just throw it over to you real quick too, because I know that your livelihood is breaking and selling cards for Formula One and stuff like that. I mean, obviously Sargeant being off the grid now is going to have an impact to his card market. I mean, to be honest, Scott, I feel like it probably won't change all that much. I mean, people are always going to want to collect the most recent American in Formula One. I think if you liked him before, you're going to still like him. And I mean, to be honest, we're probably going to see him in IndyCar, would be my guess.
Yeah, and you've talked about this on other episodes of the podcast, is that there is further collectability outside of just being a driver in Formula One. Like Christian Lundgaard, Marcus Armstrong, we've seen some of those guys that are over in IndyCar that people still enjoy collecting. They didn't even get to Formula One, right? So I think he'll still have plenty of folks that want to collect. Will it impact his prices, etc.? I don't know. I think to your point, like, I think for the past month or so, like, his card price has been down a little bit, like filling breaks, like Logan's a tough spot to fill. So I don't think it'll really be impacted too much. I think it was kind of already baked in that he was either done at the end of this year or done in the middle of it. I don't know how much influence that'll really have on his card market. Less opportunities to crash. Maybe it's better for it. But real quick, before we go on to the driver lineup, I do want to talk about Colapinto in regards to the 2024 set. Because if you recall, 2023, we had for AlphaTauri, Nick DeVries, Yuki Tsunoda, and then at halfway, actually just one race before halfway. Because if you remember last year, Zandvoort was on the front half. It was the race before the summer break. And they still swapped out, our boy for Danny Rick. So Danny Rick went in for Nick DeVries, and then he ended up getting a portrait card in the 2023 set. Like, that's why that's important to me is, Danny Rick only did a few races really, and then got, he was hurt. Liam Lawson went in. Liam Lawson didn't get a card, but Danny Rick did. So do we think Franco Colapinto is going to get a Williams, what would be rookie card portrait in 2024? All of a sudden we get a rookie. I'm on the phone to Mike Rubin and them right now saying, please put him in, pull him in for a photo shoot, stop the print, get him in there. We need a rookie in the 2024 set. And he
absolutely, like, without a doubt, I think he's going to have a card.
I hope so, man, because I tell you, from what I've heard, like, that set's baked, like, it's done. They already created it, and this is brand new news. So they would have to edit the print run. They'd have to, like, take someone's card out, put him in, or like I don't know how it worked with Danny Rick, but with Danny Rick, they had more time. Like, that happened like mid-July. So, like, we're a month and a half back. They've been trying to get the schedule pushed forward. Both of those things kind of work against him getting a card. I hope he does.
All right, really I'll change my answer. So Topps Chrome, no. Probably Dynasty, no. But maybe Topps Finest 2024, Paddock Club, Paddock Pass, whatever we're going to be calling that. There's a chance that he'll still have a Williams rookie card, I think.
I hope so. And we'll, like
Echelenza, you said, potentially. Now. I mean,
they'll put in a Topps now, like, for Monza. Monza will be, Ferrari. We love Ferrari. Monza. Topps Now card, print it, and then whoever wins, and probably Franco Colapinto first F1 race, and it will be him in a Williams race suit with a rookie card stamp on it. So we'll get Topps Now for sure.
Yeah, without a doubt. So 30 minutes. Oh god, this is going to be a longer episode.
A long one. We had a lot to cover.
We did have a lot to cover. So just a quick look at the driver lineup now with Jack. How you doing? Filling in that Alpine spot. It's the worst kept secret, and Toto Wolff has slipped up several times that Kimi Antonelli is going to probably be that Mercedes driver, teammate of George Russell next year. I mean, that would be something else. But I think they potentially may even announce it this weekend at Monza. Would be my guess, because it is a home race for Kimi and
steal Ferrari's thunder a little bit too.
Steal a little bit of that. He is getting the FP1 session in George's car too. So what a better time, just like they did with Jack Doohan. That not that it was his home race, but they just didn't need to sit on that news anymore. So
that's strategic by Mercedes, by the way. They're like, keep Lewis in the car so he can't go sign a bunch of Ferrari merch while we're in Monza. And then not only that, but also let's have Kimi sign a bunch of Mercedes merch.
Just quick. I mean, we've only got technically 2 seats left, 3 if you're, being official here. We were talking pre-show. There's a lot of drivers that are going to be on the outside looking in at this point. There's going to be at least 2 to 3 larger names that are not going to be on the grid next year.
We both had a decent amount, right? How many drivers?
Like 5
did
or
we have
6
off
that
the grid?
like 5,
Yeah,
I think. Yeah.
I think I was like one more than you. So I think we won't end up being too far off because, I mean, Ocon was the one that surprised me, honestly.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody earlier this week, and I think Ocon is going to, beat up Behrman. I think he was probably potentially the worst teammate they could have given him. Like, I mean, McLaren
He's
has
not
made
bad
some
either. He's actually pretty quick.
So, like, McLaren has made some missteps. Was it Van Dorn we were talking about several episodes ago? Just got spanked in qualifying and just didn't do well. I hope that doesn't happen to him. But I mean, obviously, Ocon may also resent Oliver Behrman for kind of being spoon fed a Formula One seat, and Ocon has scrapped by for everything. I mean, that's been well documented, but. 2 seats left, technically, Scott. Just what are your thoughts? I mean,
yeah, go ahead. I mean, I don't know. I think we have both of the actual like stake drivers currently driving for stake, kick, Sauber, whatever they're called until they're Audi in 2026. Bottas and Joe both still not given a seat. K-Mag still available. Danny Rick still technically available. Like, I mean, I don't know where this all falls. I really hope Liam Lawson gets the other RBC.
I think he does. That's my pick.
I love Danny Rick. And who knows? Maybe they kick Perez out and put Danny Rick in after this season. Wouldn't rule that out. But I really hope Lawson gets the RBC. Otherwise, what are we doing here? Or if not that, give him the Red Bull seat. And then have either Perez or Danny Rick in RB. But like, I really want Lawson in one of those seats. And then it comes down to who gets the kick. I mean, what do you think? Do you have Lawson at RB?
I have Lawson at RB. I have Ricardo off the grid. I don't know. It seems like kind of like almost like a fan casting at this point to keep him going. I just think the fact that he's not beating Yuki regularly and just not scoring points, I think that's just kind of the nail in the coffin for him, unfortunately. And he's such a good guy. I mean, everybody loves him. I know D2 is a huge Danny Rick fan, and he's got fans all over the world. I don't know. It sounds weird, but like just like off the wall pick for stake at this point is not to stay with. I don't know. I think it's going to come down to the 2 current drivers, and my off the wall pick here is that they somehow keep K-Mag and Hulkenberg together. Like,
that'd be hilarious if K-Mag and Hulk. Like, I don't know if I see it, but it would be hilarious if they both just went from Haas over there.
I mean, if they went for sponsorship, I think they keep Joe, and I don't think they get the performance. And if they just wanted performance or historical race history, I think they keep Bottas.
Yeah. Oh man, I don't know.
Or they bring in an F2 guy.
So hard. It's so hard. I know I had put Zane Maloney in the seat earlier, but at this point, I don't think so. Like that was back when he was crushing. Now Hadjar's the one that's crushing it. I think I'm not sure who's gonna get it right now. I really don't know. But
didn't they just stick Robert Schwartzman in for one of the FP sessions?
Yeah, which basically
he has ties to Binotto. He was doing endurance racing for the 3rd Ferrari team. I don't know.
He was like kind of in line at Ferrari to like, he was their test reserve driver and everything. He was always there, but just never, always the bridesmaid, never the bride for
maybe maybe Schwartzman is the 1-year punt. I don't know.
Maybe. Well, him getting that FP1 session means Teo Porcher is not getting that seat.
Oh, absolutely
zero
not.
Chance after they did that. And I was talking to Ben. He's like, "Oh, well, there goes Teo's F1 career."
Unfortunately, F2 champion. All right. 40 minutes in, we still have so much to talk about. This is just going to be a long one. People are just going to have to deal. I honestly don't think, Scott, like people are going to be that upset to hear more Formula One car talk.
Right, exactly. Split it into your drive to and from work.
Let's talk Fanatics Fest in New York City. like I said, I'm really bummed I didn't have the chance to go. Let me just preface. I think the last episode, I had somebody reach out to me like, "Are you all right? You said you had a lot of stuff going on." It literally, I am in addition to having a full-time job, also prepping cards on the side. I also help run our town soccer program, and we are at that time of the year where I'm trying to manage like 40 coaches and 400 kids and making sure everyone's all in the right place. It would have been a horrible idea for me to spend all that time in New York City while I was trying to coordinate all of that. So that is what's going on. I was perfectly fine. I know I kind of maybe worried some people, but anyways, just overall thoughts. I think the last time we talked, Scott, it was before. Obviously, now you've gone through it. Thoughts? Yep. Take it away.
Yeah. So, I mean, Fanatics Fest, we talked a little bit about what it was going to be like beforehand. And now after having been there, it was pretty similar. It's not quite as like, we were like, oh yeah, it's Comic-Con, kind of like that. But I think it's a little bit removed from that. Like really what it is it's a set of activations is kind of what they're called, right? But it's like, you can run the 40-yard dash against Gronk or I Show Speed, like these streamers and stuff. Or you can like, hit like the UFC boxing little pin thing that you can punch to see how hard your punches against like UFC fighters and boxers and superstars like Jake Paul. But like so they have all these things set up and it's fun for the NFL, the baseball, the basketball, hockey, UFC, wrestling, tons of wrestling stuff, like fans to just go to and like experience meeting, their the people they love that they're fans of. And at the same time on the other side, because it was split up. It was basically like, here's all of our activations and stuff. And then on the other side is like all of the cards, everything set up, everyone's booth and stuff. So it's like people would come in and you come in into like the activation stuff and like all this cool, stuff happening around you. And then you kind of make your way over to the cards. And so I talked to a few people. I talked to actually like Ryan Card Collector 2 and Magic City Collectibles, a few people. And we were like, yeah, I mean, we'll have to wait and see how the weekend goes to see if like those events, activations, etc., result in like foot traffic coming the other side, dollars being spent. Like, are they spending too much money on the ticket and like the their baseball player or athlete signings, in experiences? Are they spending too much money there that they're not then spending money on cards? Or does it all kind of work together? And I think it worked. I mean, we sold, granted, I will preface this is the first time I've ever set up at a show. First time ever.
Wow.
So I don't have anything to compare it to internally, but from people I've talked to that have set up F1 at the National multiple years in a row, and other places, like we did very well. We sold 343 cards total. So this is everything from $5 cards. So the way we set up is I had 6 Zion cases full of inventory, a lot of it graded, some of it raw. And then I had like 5 or 6 like little boxes set up that were $5 box, $10 box, $15, $20 box, right? That people could just look through and pick stuff out. And we sold everything from, that low level of $5 up to, cards that were 5 figures. So, we sold to a wide variety of folks as well. It was people that, had been in the Formula One card hobby ever since it kind of, sprung up a few years ago, to people that had been in it. Now they're getting back in. And people that were just completely new altogether that had no idea that the cards existed, where I run into that everywhere I go. There's always people that don't know they exist and love it. So it was really good. We sold a ton of cards for over $65,000 in sales. We also purchased a bunch of cards. We purchased 87 cards, most of it 2020 Sapphire graded stuff. I love my 2020 Sapphire. Spent over 17K. So we were also, cashing a lot of people out, but it was a really good experience. Even though we paid a hefty fee for the table, I'm talking like 4 to 5 times as much as it costs to set up most places. It was successful. even add that plus the travel, plus the hotels, everything all together, like we came out in the green by a good amount. So it was very successful just in terms of like a financial thing. Like now, we're thinking of bringing, the P1 Castle to other shows. We would have loved to have gone to Burbank this year, but unfortunately couldn't get out there because I had some family stuff going on. So we're going to try to go to local shows around here, spread the good word about Formula One, and then just also any major shows around the country. We'll probably make an official announcement at some point, but the Queen might be coming on full time at some point. We're still
breaking
working out
news.
how that work, but yeah, that could be in the near future here, which would obviously open up a lot more opportunity in terms of going around to different shows and places. But yeah, overall, really good, completely different experience to the National. The National, it's just not a great place to sell Formula One cards, like to set up a booth and try to do it, because it's too big of an area, too hard to find someone. Whereas, there were a decent amount of booths there, but you could walk the entire floor in 15 minutes. At the National, you're out there for an hour plus to try to walk by like each table. So you get enough exposure. I also benefited from being like the only F1 table, like the only pure F1. There were other people that had F1 cards there at their booths, but I had all F1, and it brought a lot of eyes. So it was good. I think it's completely different than the National. If you're going to go to sell cards, it is expensive, but I'd encourage you to maybe think about doing something like this. There's another one coming up in Orlando that we're definitely going to. And then at the National, I still think it's all about the F1 trade night that we're going to set up every year. When we do it in Chicago next year, we'll have another one set up. So yeah, that's the way to do it, I think, kind of at the National. And then these shows, they're fun, they're engaging. I'm excited to see what they do in Orlando, because that's supposed to be more like collector centric towards cards and stuff. So I'm curious to see how they set that up, how it differs from New York City. But I'm excited for it.
Awesome. All good stuff going on for sure. All right, let's talk hits. We'll go a little bit more rapid fire through this, but I do want to talk about the premium consignment stuff that you're doing as well. So we'll talk a couple massive hits in the P1 Castle here recently.
So I'm sure anyone who's anybody, you've been paying attention to the F1 hobby right now, especially 2023. Right now, the race is on for the Sapphire Selection Superfractor autos. There have been 4 of them that were still out there, right? Lewis, Max, Leclerc, and Perez. And just earlier in the week, we hit one. We hit the Perez on the 27th so just yesterday. Because it was in the morning. Oh my gosh, crazy rip.
Morning,
but
rip.
Yeah, crazy rip for Jeff. Hit the Perez. So now he's down to 3, and I think the Russells, someone owns it out there. But yeah, so that's a monster to hit, because it had been a while since anyone had hit even just a Sapphire Selection Super, let alone an auto. It had been a while, and like people were going pretty hard. Like there's a lot of people ripping it, and then it just like, okay, there's like none of this product left, and I got my hands on some, and first case that we've ripped in a while produced a monster. So yeah, super pumped about that one, and then really excited about this next one. Nico Hulkenberg, Topps Chrome 2023. First appearance of Nico Hulkenberg in the standard Topps Chrome product. He was in the National product, but ignore that. 1/1 portrait superfractor, hit in a Percy for F1 Ben. F1 Ben was doing celebratory Percies to celebrate Jack Doohan being signed. So he picked a case. He picked Jack Doohan's new like Formula One number case. It was trash. So he's like, well, I got to do another case. And I was like, let me pick it. And I picked one, and we got a superfractor, and it's awesome that we hit it. Nico Hulkenberg, it's amazing. Shout out to One Day One Card, Steven Europa Cup. I love you. I would love if this card ultimately ends up in your hands, but happy that we hit it for Ben, because he then parlayed it into a trade with friend of the show, Magic City Collectibles, who was also at Fanatics Fest. Really cool dude. We chatted a bunch. Into a deal with Magic City for the Jack Doohan 2022 Superfractor Auto, which is first appearance for Jack Doohan. And so Ben had posted that on his story, which is why I feel comfortable to drop this information. I'm sure he's going to come out with like a big post and everything about it as well. But yeah, huge for Ben. So that's why I'm excited about this Hulkenberg. I mean, card in its own right is great, but happy to what it ended up for Ben.
Yeah, for sure. And I may or may not have the privilege of also seeing that card in person coming up pretty soon too. So Ben, I know you're listening. I'm hoping we can get you a gem.
Let's go, baby.
All right, let's keep going. So you did mention it, Scott. We'll just spend a few moments on his. The voting results of this is already done, but like you said, you lost a lot of your historical hits and the media and stuff out there. So I thought this was kind of cool. You're kind of taking a look at some of your greatest hits and doing like I know you love your brackets and your tournament stuff.
Right, we do.
You pinned up 2 cards that is, it's like picking your favorite kid if you have 2 or more.
Yeah, so like Bryan said, we're going through historical hits. So I took kind of like my 32 best hits, or 32 of my best hits at least, right? Since I started breaking. And I'm just going to start posting them, just to kind of, get some of that content back up on the page, let people know, hey, we pulled some big cards. And so the first 2 that I posted were the Lewis Hamilton gold portrait from 2020, true gold. 44 out of 50 driver number. We hit that all the way back in August of 2021. 3 years ago, we hit that card. And then like 2 months ago or a month ago, we also hit a 2020 Dynasty Max Verstappen out of 5 single patch, AT&T patch. So posted up those 2 and then had them up against each other. We're calling them historical hits. You choose. I make a reel and I put in a little area for you to vote on the post itself, and then let it run for a day. I mean, actually, I think it just stays up like forever. I think technically people could still go in and vote, but I'm kind of calling it after one. But yeah, so Hamilton lost. Actually, I was surprised that Max took this one, actually. But I guess, I mean, Dynasty 2020, it's so hard to pass up on it. And while driver number is really cool, I think the Max is probably the bigger card, depending on who you're talking to. But yeah, so Max did end up kind of advancing to the next round, so to speak. But yeah, so we're going to have 30 more of these massive hits posted throughout the next, month or so. And we'll kind of pit them against each other and see what some of the most historical hits really are in the P1 Castle.
You have started up P1 Castle Premium Consignment, and as we talked about at the beginning, you've been busy.
Yeah,
a little rapid fire through here on some of these.
Sure. So really quick, just on Premium Consignment, like this is again something that kind of like I've always done, in the background, right, as a breaker and like handling a lot of these massive cards. Like I've always done, especially high end cards like sales, like connecting, buyer and seller. And so now we wanted to make it more of an official thing, where it's not just, hey, if you hit a card with me, but like if you have other big cards that you're looking to sell, P1 Castle Premium Consignment is a really good place to do it. And so we've been selling a lot of big cards recently. So within the last, honestly, 3 weeks, maybe, I think is the furthest this goes back. But in the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've sold some pretty big cards. So we sold a gold portrait raw Lewis Hamilton from 2020 Sapphire for $3,000. And so what this is doing is kind of getting some of those sales numbers out there, right? Because everyone's always looking for comps, on eBay and everywhere. And a lot of the big cards, you don't end up seeing a ton of comps because a lot of them are handled in private sales. So, as long as the buyer and seller are good with me sharing the amount, I think it's good to kind of get some of those values out there. It also lets people know, if you're interested in P1 Castle Premium Consignment, that, we do pretty well. So first one, gold Hammy 2020 portrait, Sapphire 3000. We then sold a 2020 gold Lewis Hamilton variation from Sapphire for $5,000. There's a little bit of trade involved here, but it's $5,000 on the sale price for that one. Up next, we sold a Renault 1 Pad Paraja logo PSA 8 from 2020 Sapphire for $5,500. Pretty good sale on that one. And then I think after that we move up to the big ones. Yeah. So we did sell. This is more so just informative. We sold a PSA 8 purple Lewis Hamilton 2020 Sapphire variation. We did have at least one party that requested that the price remain private. So we have to keep the price private on this one, but it was a very healthy sale, and happy for both the buyer and seller on this one. The next one we can make public, and this is one of our biggest sales, not the biggest, but one of our biggest sales. P1 Castle Premium Consignment sold a red Max Verstappen red 70th portrait from 2020 for $22,000. This one was in and out like that. And this one may be making a trip over to your house pretty soon, Bryan.
Out of 4, red, 70th.
Right.
Big card.
Love to see it.
So you also, part of doing this is obviously making some of these available. So we want to show, just a small example of, some that are actually currently, and this isn't meant to necessarily be an advert, but like, to be honest, like it's our own podcast. I'm your friend. I'm going to support you with what you're doing. You support me with grading stuff. It's just what we do. It's our podcast. I'm going to do whatever I want.
By the P1 Castle. There we go. We'll pay advertising on it. But yeah, so a few of the cards, and we still have some other even bigger ones that have been listed, for a little while. So we won't go into those, but the new ones that we're adding this upcoming week is a 2023 Eccellenza, the Red Bull La Squadra Gold 1 of 1. We have that up for $5,000 or best offer. Then we have
prepped by Q3, by the way.
That's right. PSA 9, which is tough to get on those Eccellenza cards. It's actually a solid grade. Then we've got a 2020 Lando Norris Silver Auto, PSA 9. This is a Pop 2. Ooh. Pop 2 on the PSA 9. These things just do not grade higher than 8 in general. So that one's $5,500 or best offer on the Lando, who's crushing it right now. Then up next, we've got, this one is an absolute beauty. 2020 Topps Chrome Red Bull RB16 World on Wheels Superfractor, PSA 10. 2020 PSA 10 Superfractor Aston Martin Red Bull Racing RB16 World on Wheels. So that's up for $15,000 or best offer. And then I think the last one that we've got that we're adding is the 2023 Sapphire Oscar Piastri Pad Paraja 1 of 1 rookie card freshest, PSA 9, going to be up for $18,000 or best offer. So some pretty big ones going up.
Oh, there was one more.
Was there? Oh, that's right. How could I forget? The biggest one that we have coming up, 2021 Topps Chrome George Russell Superfractor Auto, PSA 10. $20,000 or best offer. Absolute monster of a card. Superfractor Auto. Second year Superfractor Auto, PSA 10. Unbelievable. Beautiful card.
All right. There's another big auction going on in Golden right now. Speaking of Superfractors, 2023 Topps Chrome F1 Max Verstappen Superfractor Auto, PSA 10, Auto 10. I want to say Sports Card Yoda prepped this one, if I remember correctly.
I think so. I don't know 100% for sure, but I think he did. Or
I'll give Jordan credit for it regardless.
Was it Scherzer?
May have been. Oh, we don't have it. We don't have any way to.
We're gonna check right now.
So we're gonna say both of them are great guys, and we'll take care of your prepping needs as well. There's so many good prepping guys. Also, Clayton Clayton with Metals Brakes, also very, very good at what he does. So
Yeah.
we'll just mention all of them because we're not quite certain. But anyway, so Monster Card, current bid, $9,500, $11,590 with a buyer's premium. You can tell this is live and I'm not going to edit this stuff out. So I'm just going to give credit to all of the guys.
Everyone who breaks is amazing. Everyone who grades cards is amazing. Everyone who consigns is amazing.
Yes.
We're all part of the F1 ecosystem. But yeah, so this card was actually hit by it was a new breaker. I want to say it was like Masters Shifu, and I'm sorry if I got this wrong. Is it? Oh man, see, now we're just getting everything wrong. See, we're never prepared for any of this.
We are a bunch of hacks. Anyways, let's just drop all that. Anyways, this is big card on Golden right now. That's going for a lot of money.
I'm pretty sure it's Master Shifu. So he hit it for Card Max, who got it prepped by Mystery Person. And it got a 10-10. It's on Golden right now. And as of the beginning of this podcast, because I don't know if I am now, I am the high bidder on this card. And I'm going up quite a ways more than where it's at right now. Like Bryan said, current bid's 9,500. That's 11,590 with the buyer's premium. So that would be 11,590 out of my wallet, 95 into Tim in a Card Max's wallet. But this is going for way more than that. It ends September 2nd. That's Monday. Ends next Monday at 10 p.m. Eastern. So set your alarm clocks. And although actually, if you're interested in the card, you actually have to bid now. Like you have to get a bid in before extended bidding starts, or you cannot bid during extended bidding. And like, don't wait till the last day. I've seen a ton of people like, oh, I created an account the last day I was going to bid on it. It wouldn't let me. And it's like, well, yeah, because you just created the account. So go create an account on Golden. Go bid on this card if you're interested in it. I am very interested in this card. And I don't know that I'll be able to bring the level of funds needed to win this card. And if I do, I'll be very surprised. But I'm definitely a interested party in this card for significantly more than it's currently at. But yeah, so there's about 5 days left. So get in. Well, actually, as of the time of you listening to this podcast, like 4.5 days left. So get it together, guys. Get beautiful a bid
card.
In.
Beautiful card. Obviously got the helmet. Different from his portrait.
Love the helmet.
Just as somebody that looks at a lot of autographs and stuff all the time, this is probably one of the cleanest Max autographs I've seen in a while. He has a tendency to be very faint on his follow through, and that does ding the grade. You see a lot of PSA 9 Max auto grades, and a lot of people actually don't grade his autos because of that. So kudos for the bravado to go ahead and do that. But also just looking at this, I would have recommended the same if I had been the one to prep this, and obviously I didn't. So I am out of that mystery running.
Are you sure? Are you sure? Wasn't you, Bryan? Maybe you fell asleep, woke up, bam, you had graded it.
No, I remember seeing this card. I have seen a few Max Supers in my day. I did not see this one.
I'm pretty sure it's Parzer. I'm going on the record. Parzer. I don't know for sure. It doesn't mean that everyone isn't great, but I feel like that's who it is.
Oh, well, anyway, so we were good for most of this show until we fell off the rails with this last segment. But, like I said, we're a bunch of hacks doing this for fun, but just obviously love talking about the hobby. And I get more encouraged day by day, just seeing how things are going. And, this is obviously we love to talk. That's pretty clear if you've been with us. I think this is episode number 25. So thank you for sticking around with us, or, 25. Welcome aboard if this is one of your first. But we're here to help grow the hobby, talk about the hobby, give shameless plug. 10x the hobby, give shameless plugs for our own stuff. But hey, it's our podcast and we can do it if we want to.
Absolutely.
All right. So over an hour, probably 20 minutes longer than we had anticipated, maybe even 30 minutes longer than we anticipated. But I think at this point, Scott, we should probably just end this before we get rambling even more.
Just out of our misery. I know. No, but it's good to be back. And we'll have another podcast episode coming up next week. So after the race in Monza, and we'll get to see kind of where this card ended as well, which would be cool. So yeah, there'll be plenty to talk about. See how Calapinto does in his first race. Yeah, we got some first FP1 outing for Kimi Antonelli. Actually, that's very interesting. see how he does. But yeah, so F1 is back, and we're excited, and the card hobby is back and better than ever. We've got to wait maybe a little bit for some new products, but we'll manage.
All right, my friend, bring us home.
All right, everybody. Well, remember, collect your cardboard, keep it carbon.